Welcome everybody to the afternoon session. I'm Gretchen Alarcon. All right, when I talk about technology and technology at work, how many of you picture something like this? Maybe some? No? I have to tell you, when someone tells me about technology or I start hearing about our robot collaboration, what goes through my head is the robot from the Jetsons. And I picture, what was her name, Rosie, with her little apron, she was the robot. So I have to get past my biases around how machines are going to augment work and what this means today and how really an automated system looks, because this is what many of our organizations are dealing with today. So it's not only about the manufacturing process, it's not only about the new cool stuff, it's how do we make physicians more effective as they are thinking and training in surgery. It's the flying drones that are going to start delivering packages for that last mile where we need to have additional content. Obviously in any cockpit at this point there's so much technology, they're spending more time looking at their checklists and their buttons than they are anything else. Whether you're looking on the factory or you're working in a farm, technology is impacting everywhere we are. And so when we talk about how AI is going to start to impact our technologies, I'm thinking about it from the lens of an employee. But really, our employees today are working with more technology than they ever have. And that's just going to continue to grow. So as we think about bringing technology to HR, we need to be aware that our employees are already used to working with technology. We're just now talking about it from a software standpoint. The other thing we're seeing in quite a big number of changes, any guesses on which of these is the real and which is the fake person? Someone's smiling, not quite sure. That's the fake. Madame Tussauds, this is the real. But we're getting closer and closer to this, right? We all saw those movies where they fall in love with the robot, right? The truth of the matter is, we are all becoming much more used to interacting with systems. I don't know about any of you, but how many of you have been talking to your phone or talking to a bot and actually stopped and said thank you at the end of the interaction? Do you really think the bot cares? No, but you say thank you anyway because it's become humanized to you. There's actually research going on right now about what kind of social mores we're going to be changing based on how we name the bots. So you all notice Siri for Apple, Alexa for Amazon. They're actually conducting research right now in India around what happens if the bot that you are talking to get medical advice is female or male. Does it actually change how well people respond to the medical advice and choose to take action? So it's an interesting thing where we're starting to test what our expectations are as we start to use the technology. And the truth of the matter is that technology is everywhere in our home lives. I don't know about you all, but Alexa arrived on the scene and all of a sudden everyone's talking to Alexa. I thought that was just going to be a young generation kind of a thing. I was visiting my mom back in October and I realized she picked up a remote control and started talking to it. And I realized she had completely converted for all of her television watching. Everything is talking to the remote now. She no longer clicks the buttons at all. Okay, well if my mom can do it, probably your employees can as well. But it's also changed other areas. I like getting the warnings on my phone around it's time to stand up, it's time to take a deep breath. Those sorts of things that kind of are not just about let me be more productive and get that text that much faster, that email that much faster, but thinking about the rest of our lives as well. So we're changing how we think about this. Now I know in the middle, I know in London, Uber's kind of a dicey conversation to have right now. I was warned by several people I should make sure I only take a black cab while I'm here. But it is changing again how people expect to get from point A to point B, right? All this technology is around us at all times. So the question starts to become, what happens when we are in this experience economy? If everything we do is focused on your personal experience, then why is it that when you come to work, you get a generic experience of a technology that was built 20 years ago? And that was implemented by somebody who didn't really have the employee experience, was more focused on making sure that standards were followed and compliance was met. That's not one size fits one. That's one size fits all and doesn't fit very well for anybody. So in this experience economy, it's all about me. And I expect to have all the systems that I interact with know who I am, know my preferences, align with what I need to do in order to move forward. And that's the mindset that every one of your employees is coming to with the office, if they come to the office every day. So, experience matters more to consumers today. We've done some research on the CX side, and we found that 1/3 of consumers will walk away from a brand forever after just one bad experience. And we've always heard for years about, one bad experience travels much faster than 10 good experiences, right? But people are saying, I can walk away. 41% of consumers are willing to pay as much as 20% more for an impressive customer experience. Again, it's all about me. I want the front row seats with the meet and greet at the concert. I don't want to just attend now. I have to have the picture with the performer to prove that I had the better experience, right? However, what does this mean when you're talking about your consumers who are your candidates for jobs? One bad experience, you've lost that login, you've lost that email for at least another 2 years, because they're not looking for jobs that actively. They don't get in on that first time, you're not cultivating them anymore. That one bad meeting with the manager leads the employee to say, I'm out, and in a period of low unemployment, they can easily find another job. So we need to think about what that experience is like. We also need to think about how AI is trying to impact this. So we did some research, this is our second year doing the AI study around the interactions and how people are adopting AI at work. And what we found was that this year, 50% of workers are currently using some form of AI at work, and that's up from 32% last year. So already massive growth in terms of using AI. Secondly, 65% of workers are optimistic, excited, and grateful about having robot coworkers. Now again, in my head, I'm picturing Rosie from the Jetsons. That's not quite right. Grateful to have a robot coworker? Well, yeah, because the robots are taking the repetitive things that nobody likes to do. They're simplifying the processes. They're doing the grunt work so that you don't have to do that, so you can focus on higher order thinking. So yes, it's changing the relationship between humans and machines. Similarly, it's changing the relationship between humans and humans. And this is where we start to get into what's going to happen to workers as a result. 64% of people would trust a robot more than their manager. And half of them have turned to a robot instead of their manager for advice. Now, David, I know that's your case, always. But, why would you do that? Why would you call a robot and not your manager? Why would you invoke? Because it's safer? Because you don't want to ask a stupid question? Because you want to get advice and you're not really ready to share everywhere else? 82% of people think robots can do things better than their manager. I 100% would agree with that. 82% of robots can do things better than my manager, for sure. It's changing the way we think about using technology, and as a result, how our engagement is working as employees. Now that said, employees still want people managers. AI is not going to take over everything. There's always going to be a human somewhere in the works. So, from an AI standpoint, the question comes up around what does AI do better? It does better things that are delegating work, managing a budget, asking confidential questions. I'm not ready to ask more visually, but I'm willing to ask a robot. Maintaining work schedules, optimizing. I loved everything. Robots do everything better. Providing unbiased information. That was an interesting one for me. Being less biased coming from a robot than from a manager. But we still need emotional intelligence, and the bot can't provide that. Understand my feelings, coach me, create or promote the work culture. The bot has an ability to do some of that, but we still need humans to drive these things. Evaluating performance, problem solving, providing oversight. So this balance we're going to see come into play more and more when we think about HR technology, because if I can rely more on a bot to take some of these things out of the way, hopefully I'm freeing up managers to do the things they do well. If they're not spending their time managing schedules and swapping shifts and thinking about overtime management, but they're thinking about coaching and ensuring that someone is more likely to come to work tomorrow in a positive mood, that's a good investment of time. So it's a change, but we are definitely going to need both. So, the other thing that's happening at the same time as we're thinking about AI is the pace of change is accelerating. I don't know about you guys, but I used to have a rule. My kids are older now, they're grown, they're out of the house. But I used to have a rule that they had to friend me on any social media that they were going to be on. If they wanted to be on social media, that was fine, but they had to be my friend because I'm lonely and I need friends and my kids are good people to be friends. But I also could make that rule because I had already been on pretty much any platform before they were. I was on Facebook before they were, I was on Twitter before they were, I was on Instagram, Snapchat. Suddenly TikTok is the thing, and my daughter is obsessed. I have no idea. I'm suddenly in this, wait, I'm behind now, I've got to catch up. The pace of change just shifted. Another example, how many of you got up this morning and like you do every single morning, you updated all the applications on your phone? Anybody? Is that a daily practice, updating your apps? For me, it's usually like, a Sunday and I'm kind of scrolling through and in like a downtime and oh my God, I've got 47 applications that need an update. Let's just update them all, right? That's not a practice. I can't keep up. I have no idea what those enhancements were, and I frankly didn't bother to read all of them. I just hit update all, and ta-da, it's all done, right? I can't keep up in my personal life. So what makes me think that in a corporate life, we're going to keep up with all of this technology? And that's what's driving a lot of what people see as a discomfort in the workplace. Because technology is moving at a hugely fast pace. Individuals are struggling to keep up, and businesses are behind them. And that gap between individuals' awareness of technology and businesses is where we have a huge opportunity with human capital management systems. Because the more our systems start to align with people's lived-in experiences with their own personal applications, the more we start to align with their paradigm, the more they see the value of these sorts of integrations. Now I'll tell you, when I talked about this with a couple customers, they were like, well, but we're always going to be behind. We're a system, we are a corporate, we have to do it all. Sure, fine. But here's the thing. I remember back in the day 20 years ago where we had lots and lots of discussions around if we got the engineers the best chair, they would stay in the office longer and they'd code longer. Anybody remember that? And then we brought in dry cleaning to the office, because if we leave the dry cleaning in the office, why do we think engineers needed dry cleaning? Okay, sidebar, well, we won't follow that one right now, but we thought that those were ways for people to be connected. But we didn't invest in the technology. And so they have better technology at home than they do in the office. So why are they not using our systems? Because they don't have to. And we need to fix that by providing better technology as a cultural statement to our employees. Anytime we implement anything that impacts the enterprise, we are creating a work culture. So why aren't we thinking about that when we think about aligning human capital management? You are making a cultural statement with the technology that you choose to deploy to your employees. So, with Oracle, the most complete, the best technology, fastest innovation, modern UX. This is the rah-rah part. Everybody got that? Okay. Let me tell you a little bit about where we're going and some things that we're investing in right now to really align that business need with the individual need. It starts by thinking about what are your big challenges? How are we going to improve the human experience? How about HCM Cloud as a platform for innovation? And let's talk about career mobility. We haven't talked a lot about career mobility over the last 4 or 5 years. We've mostly talked about external recruitment or learning. But we really need to start talking about what are we doing to cultivate the people who are in our organizations today so that they see that their best opportunity for career growth is staying in the organization and moving up a level, or taking a lateral assignment, or finding other ways to grow within their own organization. So when I think about improving the human experience, the thing I think about more than anything else is conversational experiences. As I mentioned, if we're getting used to talking to the system, why are we not talking to the system for HR? Why do I have to go log a case? Why do I have to wait and call HR and wait an hour plus for a report? I just want to get my information out. I think about adaptive intelligence. How are we going to include all the data and have the data drive decisions in our organization? One of my favorite examples that we've been playing around with recently in the research is, could you use AI to suggest when someone is ready for a promotion? Because there are some people who are really good managers, they're really good at advancing their teams, and they kind of go, you know, the person hasn't necessarily proven themselves, but it's a growth opportunity, I'm going to promote them. There are other managers who are like, they must go through 75 different hoops and catch me on the right day when things are positive, and then I'll give them the promotion, right? Well, what if AI could help us there? What if AI could say, you know, this person's been in the role for 2 years with solid performance, and typically people who have been in the role for that long are candidates for promotion. Would you like to promote this person? Well, now AI is helping the manager and prompting them and saying this is a good practice that we encourage within our culture. So we're coaching the manager with AI as the guide. Machine responsiveness, having the system look and behave the same regardless on what platform you're on. Because the reality is, I do everything on my phone these days. If you're making me log into a computer, I will tell you that's going to happen, once, maybe twice over the course of a week, because I'm on the go, I don't have time. And I'm not the only one, so how do we make sure that whatever device you're using, you can leverage HCM? Predictive search, you know how on Google you can do the type ahead? So you start typing and then it fills out the word, right? Has anyone ever noticed that we don't have that in enterprise software? Why? Because it's hard to do. You need a lot of data to actually do the prediction. We couldn't do that when we were in the on-premise world. Now that we're in the cloud, we can. And so again, it's a subtle thing, but it helps the employees see the system interacting the way all the other commercial applications that they use work. And then notifications and alerts. How do we make them timely? How do we make them make sense? One of the most important things we talked about as changes, those lovely error messages. How many of you grew up with 404 errors? Right? They pop up, or 403, even worse, 403 forbidden. And everyone goes, well, I guess I'm done. I'm not going to do the HR thing today. I'll put that aside. I'll come back later, right? How about a very friendly, hey, something went wrong. We don't really know what, but here's a link to start over, right? How do we make this more friendly, more engaging so people continue using? Because there will be errors. We'd like there not to be, that they're going to have them. So where do we make those things happen? So, as I mentioned, digital assistant, to me, this is one of the things that just kind of appeared out of nowhere a year and a half ago. And I will tell you, when the bots first started, they started on the shopping sites. You couldn't land on a shopping site and be there for more than like a couple minutes before the bot would start to pop up and say, hey, do you have any questions? Do you want the shoes? Do you want the shoes? They come in different colors. How about the shoes in blue? You don't want the red? You want the brown? Excellent. Any other questions? What else, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is just like right there in front of me. But people adopted. They loved it because it was personal to them. It was guiding them. And then it would chase them and the shoes would follow them through every other source, so you had to eventually buy the shoes. Or at least that was my justification. But thinking about it from an HR standpoint, how do I ask the basic questions? How do I get the data in and out very quickly without having to interact with a human? And I will tell you, my daughter is 20, my son is 24. Both of them grew up with technology. Both of them, if they could, would never interact with a human on basic questions. They will text. My daughter was 11 and was texting me from downstairs. Is it dinner time yet? I'm like, really, you can't come upstairs? Well, no, I'm super comfortable. Just tell me when dinner's ready. Texting back and forth, right? Why would I talk to a human? So how can I use a digital assistant to interact with me, to answer those basic questions? So we started this process with 20 basic questions and said, how would you ask them? How can we answer them? Most common questions. How do I reset my password? Always is number one. Did I get paid? Did my pay slip get deposited? Can I take an absence? And then usually something to do with directory. Those are kind of the top questions that were coming into most organizations from an HR center standpoint. But there are hundreds of different ways you could ask those questions. Did I get paid? Well, in my world, that's my question. Someone else might say, show me my pay slip. Someone else might say, show me the money. Someone else might say, where's my bank account, right? All questions leading to the same answer, which is, yes, you got paid, click here to see your pay slip, or here's the dollar amount, depending on what you're comfortable with. So the digital assistant is about providing contextual assistance in a way that makes sense. And it goes further than that. So you can look up your directory, you can look at other content as well. So let me show you. I decided not to play musical chairs with systems, so we're going to just show you a brief video of how this actually works in reality. So here's my digital assistant. Selecting approvals. There are my approvals. What do I want to approve? What would I like to choose? Anything else you can help me with? Sure. How about directory? What would I like to see in the directory? Who's my HR rep? Let's go ahead and show that. So there's your HR rep. 2 quick transactions, that was 30 seconds, right? Back and forth, easy. Now, one thing you probably noticed, we didn't just have any question into the digital assistant. And that's deliberate, because if you just leave it wide open, your employees are going to ask questions that the digital assistant isn't ready for, and they're going to get frustrated. For me, when I first rolled out Siri for the first time, I was super excited. I was going to ask Siri all these questions. And when Siri couldn't find my favorite sushi restaurant after about the 4th try, I threw my phone across the room. I'm like, never mind, I am absolutely not using Siri. We don't want that. So we want to train people a little bit by giving them guidance on what they can do. So examples. Also, today, since I'm doing this with an automated thing, I didn't turn on voice, but you can see the voice. You absolutely can talk to the digital assistant. So if you are someone who talks faster than you type, and that's a better way for you to interact, we absolutely can do that too. So we see this as a major step forward. We have several early adopters who are already using this and showing it in their organization. And as I said, it's a cultural moment because they are shaping the technology for what they are trying to drive with their work culture. So it's a good opportunity there as well. So, why does it matter? Simplified communication, helping your employees and your candidates, delivering a conversational user experience, adding worker satisfaction and more efficient interactions. Up next, how many of you have heard about the Enterprise Design Studio? Small number of hands going up, okay. So, generation 1 of the cloud was all about, we're going to do things the same way. We're going to be consistent. You will have vanilla. Vanilla is the only flavor. It is the best flavor, and you do not need any other flavors but vanilla, which is fantastic, except I like chocolate chip. So we got to add in the chocolate chips or else it's not going to make any sense, right? And for many organizations, this is what happened. Vanilla was great, and then you had that one manager who had their own preferred way of doing things, who said, I can't possibly use the system the way you've deployed it, help me out, or I'm just not going to use it and I'm going to cause huge problems, right? So HR goes in and starts trying to figure out how to customize, but we're in the cloud, you can't customize. What are you going to do? Well, we had Page Composer, and we rolled that out. We were like, Page Composer is how you are going to make this a very effective product and make it your own, which is great, except Page Composer requires IT knowledge. Now, no offense to any of you in here who are in IT, but I happen to know that the HR people are not your #1 priority when it comes to the work to be done on a day-to-day basis. It's kind of like the CEO, the executive suite, sales, development maybe, marketing, anybody else and their dog, and then HR, right? So the other part about it is there's interpretation that's needed because a business need as expressed by HR is not always understood by the IT person who needs to put it in. And so we said, what if we could actually have the design studio be something that a subject matter expert could use to configure the product? To say that we're going to do things differently in HR than we do in marketing. To say that this business unit has a different process, this country has a different process, but those rules can be set up and maintained by HR because they understand what they're trying to do. So some things that come in the digital assistant. Defaulting and validation. Why do we have to show every single possible location when you are going to transfer someone? Why? Again, this is all about me. Why do I not only see the locations that I can transfer people to? Do you know how many locations Oracle has in India? But do you know how many my team work in? 2. So why can't I just only see those 2? Gives me a much better shot at getting it right, right? What about rules? In Germany, there's a Works Council rule that says you can't transfer somebody mid-year and give more than a 3% salary adjustment. So why do we leave the salary adjustment percentage open? Put in anything you want, and then HR has to clean it up on the back end, and now the manager's mad because they thought it was a 5%, and HR has to come back and say, sorry, it can only be 3, right? So how do we make that happen? Or event-based business processes, onboarding, offboarding, midboarding, steps have to be followed. How do we make that so that it's personalized to the business unit or to the manager, rather than something that has to be configured just as a standard for the whole organization? So we said, okay, let's make that something we give to HR. So design a personalized experience with the Experience Design Studio. In this case, you can see I put an error. Salary cannot exceed 3% for an off-cycle promotion. Don't do it, that's all you can do. So I will say, I used this as a joke earlier, and then I found out that a company actually found it a value. How many of you allow future dated marriages? Is that a problem for anybody? I actually had an insurance company tell me that it was a big issue for them that people would put in for their leave to get married and say they wanted to do the status change of getting married as a future dated thing, and this was a problem for them because of the amount of rework they had to do when the marriage didn't go through. So there's a rule. That's not something I was really thinking I needed to build, but if that's a problem for you, absolutely, no more future dated marriages. That's a rule we're going to use through the Experience Design Studio. They can only move to certain locations. They can't transfer. They can only start on the 1st and the 15th of the month. We don't allow off-cycle starts because it's too much work for payroll. These are all things that you can design into the design studio as a subject matter expert to align and have better compliance for your organization. So this includes things like driving automation, personalizing and defaulting, having better innovation. It's going to lead to compliance consistency, data quality, saving HR time and effort. So huge value with this one. Thirdly, let's talk about career mobility. If you had told me 5 years ago that we would have frequent search terms for the marketing organization around SEO and social media, I would have said, yeah, maybe some organizations would, but I wouldn't have said that's a career in marketing. But it is absolutely a career in marketing now. Our problem with career mobility is all of the ladders, all of the plans are based on an assumption that we know exactly what the steps are to go forward. And those steps are going to be the same forever and always. And I'm sure all of you have experienced this where you're talking to someone and their path to a leadership role is very different than their predecessors because the world is changing too fast. So we decided we needed to do something to help in this area. We started with an updated career path where we're going to start using AI to help augment the career paths, to say the approved path or the preferred path is this way, but we're seeing emerging paths in other ways that could help your employees see how they can move forward within the organization. We also thought it'd be really important to have a better way to find teams or mentors. So many organizations today are using task forces and teams as a way to augment their staff. So you have your day-to-day assignment, but then you're on a task force, or a short-term work assignment, or you're on a rotation, some other way to get engaged. And today that work is not captured. But we think it should be, because it might be how someone is preparing for a promotion, or growth, or showing that their career trajectory is about to change. So what can we do to help with that? And then finally, how are we going to align personal profiles? What can we do differently to help people better understand what they could do within the organization? So our first proof of that is a capability that we are calling connections. Now some of you have seen what we've had before in terms of our employee directory. This is a new capability to be rolling first half of this year. Our goal here is to show who are you? What do you do? What are your past accomplishments? Have the employee directory brought into this as well, being able to share feedback and give praise. And importantly, when navigating the organization, see up and down, see all the other ways people are interacting. Because the whole point of having a directory, step one is find the person you're starting for. But I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that I start looking for one person, and then I'm like, no wait, how does this person connect to that person? And how's that person, didn't they used to work for this person? And suddenly I'm doing an anthropological study of how people have moved within the organization. We want you to be able to do that. So we think connections is a great opportunity to try that. So as an example, here's how we can look at connections to strengthen your network. There's that type ahead I mentioned in the search, finding people, and as we see the information about Steph coming across, we're able to see additional information about her, being able to manage the organization and look at other capabilities as well. So career mobility is going to engage your workforce today and tomorrow. It's going to help with search, it's going to help with organizational viability and visibility. It centralizes a point of contact for all your employees, and it enables unique views for your organization, improving satisfaction, streamlining, and improving retention. So, it's innovation made easy. That's our focus as we think forward. Everybody always wants to know about the roadmap. And I will tell you, when we moved to the cloud, I told people I was going to start calling it a flight plan. There are a lot of different ways we can talk about the roadmap. I like to think of it in terms of big bets. These are the areas that we see opportunity coming over the next 12 to 18 months, maybe a little bit longer. Some of these I've mentioned. Some of these are going to be more we'll talk about over time. But these are the areas that we're doing research and development in right now. If you would like to learn more, coming soon, meaning the end of this month, will be our in-cloud investment summary. So this is a white paper that my team puts out. It's 40 pages roughly. I encourage it if you have insomnia. It is all about having the capabilities so you can actually see what's coming. And what's nice about this is it comes directly from our backlog in development. So this isn't a creative writing exercise. Not to say we don't do those too, because we're really good at creative writing. But this is where what we want to do is we want to show you what we're building so you can plan. And you can know if it's not in that paper, it's time to have a phone call with me to talk about where it might be coming over time, and if it's a research opportunity for us. The other place to get the information around what's coming is our Ideas Lab. So, the great part about the Ideas Lab, as long as you have one cloud license, I don't care where in your organization it is, you can join the Ideas Lab. We currently have 37,000 members. This is a fantastic area to learn about what's coming up, to ask questions, to share your knowledge, to prove yourself a guru. We have a lot of people who have become gurus being on the system. It is also where we've put the Idea Lab. So we introduced the Idea Lab about 18 months ago with a goal of being more transparent about what our customers were asking for. Because when those ERs are just hidden in my Oracle support, they're hard to find. It's hard to know why we're building one versus another. So by making it transparent on the Idea Lab, you can see it, and we have a commitment that as soon as 30 individual companies ask for that idea, voted up, it will be considered for roadmap. And I am measuring that with my team monthly. We're currently at 80% of those ideas that have reached that threshold having been either slated or declined based on a specific reason. So we want you to know exactly where we're going and have that proof point. One of the things that matters most to us is the amount of customer engagement that we do have. You know, we come to these events, I get let out to talk to you all in this group, and then I'm going to be upstairs locked in a room for like the next day and a half. But that's an important thing because I want to have one-on-one conversations. We have a running joke in our team about exactly how many of us are on text lines with our current customers. They're going live. I literally, when Barrett Gold was going live in Canada, I was talking to her every single night on my drive home. I'm not the consultant, but that's my job as the executive sponsor, to make sure that we are building those connections appropriately. And we really do value those. Those direct access capabilities are how we make sure that what we're building aligns with your needs. So these are just some examples. So, success enabled. In the last 12 months, 98% of our roadmap commitments were delivered. The 2% we didn't deliver were specific customer commits where the customer pushed out their implementation, and so we pushed out our time frame. That's not we're not going to deliver it, but it was a customer change. 1,200 new features, 2,000 pages redesigned for our new newsfeed UX, 100% mobile responsive, 30 AI-driven capabilities, and 15 voice-enabled capabilities. And we're not slowing down anytime soon. We're continuing to grow. With the newsfeed updates, as we've talked about, 100% of our customers are on a current release every quarter. Our downtime has decreased dramatically. We are sub 24 hours now of scheduled downtime per year. Those of you who were with us a few years ago will absolutely be nodding your heads around what downtime used to look like. Millions paid, tens of millions subscribed, and our newest products, recruiting, 300 plus recruiting customers growing. So we're really proud of the amount of growth and the amount of scale that we have had. And to help you, we are now introducing a new capability within the HCM Cloud experience, which we are calling Project Elevate. And the intent with this is to help you take your cloud experience to the next level. Maybe you are focused on getting live, you need to continue moving forward. So streamline and update. More innovation, less disruption, that's our focus. And now it's time for you to outpace change. So with that, let me hand it over to our team from Accenture. Thank you all for joining us, and we're going to have a little panel going on. We appreciate your time.